This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. I'm Eben Jansen. This show is broadcast live every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. Highlights are then repeated at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following morning. We're also streaming live on YouTube between 9 and 10 a.m. every day with the entire show available for watching on our YouTube channel all of the time. Today, we look at the ongoing negotiations in the platinum sector with rumours of a deal in the offing. We look further into the theft of 40 rhinohorn in Mpumalanga, and we close the show with a look at the Lusitoland festival that kicks off in Johannesburg this week. But first, here are the news headlines. Negotiations to end the longest and most costly strike in the platinum mining sector will continue today. There's been cautious optimism that the 3-month strike could soon be over. The proposed increases will ensure that the minimum cash remuneration for entry-level underground employees rises to 12,500 rand per month by 2017. The strike has so far resulted in 6 billion rand in employees' lost earnings and 14 billion rand in companies' revenue lost. No update on the ongoing talks has been released. The ANC and opposition parties serving on Parliament's ad hoc committee in Nkandla are in disagreement about the committee's mandate and timeframes. The ruling party yesterday announced its 7 MPs to serve on the committee. Reports to be considered include that of the Public Protector, the Special Investigative Unit and President Zuma's initial response to Thuli Madonsela's report. National Assembly Speaker Max Sisulu has set April 30th as the deadline for completing its work. Its work is expected to begin soon. COSATU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi says the Labour Federation will continue to work towards the scrapping of e-tolls and labour brokers, as well as the introduction of a national minimum wage. Vavi says COSATU's support for the ANC is conditional on these issues. He was addressing a joint Shop Stewards Council meeting in Cape Town on COSATU matters. Vavi says they also remain concerned about the amount of money spent upgrading President Zuma's home in Nkandla. Well, talks between platinum producers and labour union AMCU to resolve a 12-week-long wage strike will continue today. The chief executives of Amplats, Implats and Lonmin, as well as the leaders of AMCU, are meeting to consider a new pay offer to striking miners. There's been no updates on the talks yet. The strike has cost the economy around 20 billion rand in lost revenue and wages.
Employers have tabled a new offer, which in effect amounts to an annual increase of 10% over the next 5 years.
What's on offer is cash remuneration as opposed to basic pay. Huge difference. Cash remuneration involves things like allowances, the fabled living out allowance, holiday allowance or the 13th check and other allowances as well, which takes you some way away from the kind of base pay offer which is there.
AMCU has remained mum on the new offer, but some analysts believe that a deal is imminent.
I don't believe that it's surprising that a deal is going to be reached now, because at the moment all sides are losing out so badly that they have to somehow reach some compromise.
An end to the marathon strike would be welcome relief to everyone. The producers have lost 14.2 billion rand to date. The miners have lost 6.3 billion rand in wages. Each miner, on average, supports 10 dependents. Shares of the mining companies, as well as the platinum index, ended higher in anticipation of a breakthrough. Mbongeni Mutwa, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, joining us now is economic labour analyst Mr. Tony Healy, who's in our studios down in Durban, to give us his views on the standoff and the negotiations underway. Good morning, Mr. Healy. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Evan.
Just tell us, what do you make of the talks that have been ongoing now since yesterday? Are you hopeful?
I think this could well be the beginning of the end, Eben. It looks like AMCU may well achieve the wages that they're looking for, but over a longer period of time. And it wouldn't surprise me that some kind of deal is reached along the basis of that demand being achieved by the middle of 2017.
Would this be a victory for AMCU?
Well, I think it would not be a victory for either party necessarily. I think it's the kind of compromise that everyone will have been looking for. A victory for AMCU would have been this particular increase immediately. It looks like it will be delayed and extended and drawn out over a 3-year period. But I don't think one can really say that it's necessarily a victory. I think AMCU's strike and AMCU in general has surprised many in that they've been able to sustain a strike of such a long duration and achieve what will still be a fairly significant increases over the next 3 years.
I wanted to ask you about sustainability, because that's been one of the sort of buzzwords on the line from the mining companies over the last year, really. Sustainability, will it, they said 12,500 rand is not sustainable. Would it be then sustainable in 3 years' time? What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think what this deal does, if it indeed goes through, is it first of all gives the platinum mines a multi-year deal, an industrial peace, at least on wages, for the next 3 years. And that will be of great importance to them. We must always remember as well that during every strike, over the course of a week, strikers lose nearly 2% of their income. So, for example, the strike has lasted 3 months. That is 12 weeks. If you double that, you're looking at 24, 25, 26% of any increase already lost in lost wages during the strike. So, but over time, I think that the platinum mines may also have a relatively positive view on the platinum price over the next 3 years, and they must believe that economically they're going to be able to afford those kinds of increases between now and the middle of 2017.
This kind of strikes and this kind of protracted negotiation we've seen, what are the risks for the workers? Do we in a few months' time see a scenario of lots of job losses because of this sustainability factor?
That has to be a realistic prospect. We're already hearing rumblings amongst the mines of increased mechanization, open cast mining and the like. So there's no doubt that the potential does exist over the next 3 years and even longer for job losses to incur, to potentially foot the wage bill that's going to increase probably quite significantly over the next 3 years.
What does this say to investors, and what will be the long-term effect on the economy then?
Well, I think investors, at least in the short term, appear to be fairly positive about the prospects of the strike being resolved. They're losing, as you've rightly mentioned, 13 odd billion rands worth of revenue, these particular 3 platinum mine companies. And we're already seeing the share prices of those firms increasing slightly over the last couple of days with a view to the strike being resolved. So I think in the short to medium term, investors will probably be pleased that the strike is likely to come to an end in the foreseeable future.
Mr. Healy, if you'd allow me to change gear a little bit quickly and shift the focus to the labour movement itself and Zwelinzima Vavi in particular. He's now come out and says he'll abide by the Labour Federation's decision to support the ANC in the upcoming elections. How do you read that?
Well, I think a deal was struck. Remember, Mr. Ramaphosa became involved in the whole issue of Mr. Vavi returning to work at COSATU, and the whole question of how he would be reincorporated and whether, for example, he would be resuspended and the like. I think that what's happened is a deal has been struck between the ANC and COSATU. And certain obligations, there are certain obligations on both sides to behave and conduct themselves in particular ways. And I wouldn't be surprised if the ANC hasn't made some undertakings to COSATU, that after the elections they will make some compromises on issues or agenda items which are important to COSATU, which perhaps they haven't thus far, in return for COSATU not compromising the ANC on the build-up to the elections.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Mr. Healy. That's economic labour analyst Tony Healy, who's joining us from Durban, giving us his insights into, well, the ongoing negotiations in on the platinum sector, in the mining industry, and then also he spoke to us about, well, one of our top stories, Let me just recap it for you. COSATU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi says he will abide by the Labour Federation's decision to support the ANC in the upcoming elections. However, the support comes with conditions. Vavi was addressing a joint shop stewards council meeting in Cape Town on internal COSATU matters last night. He's appealed for unity within the Trade Union Federation.
After months of divisions and discord within COSATU, the man at the center of the storm is calling for unity. Vavi says divisions within the federation are a threat to the cause of the workers, which COSATU represents.
Without unity of workers, everything else becomes impossible. Without the numbers united behind a principled federation, then all is lost.
Vavi says he will abide by COSATU's resolution to support the ruling party, albeit not without conditions.
We want a COSATU, an independent organization. An organization only answerable to the structures, to the members' voice. Only.
He says the support comes with demands, amongst them the scrapping of labor brokers and e-tolls, and the fight against corruption remains on top of the agenda.
The position of the Federation remains. We are critical of the fact that 250 million rands is spent on one person.
Well, let's take a look at what you are talking about on social media. Of course, social platforms have been abuzz with this story and quite a few others. At SABC Newsroom, that's where you can go and have a look at what we are putting up on our social media channels. Sekwadita says, AMCU must never settle for anything less than what they've actually demanded. Khamotso Puwe says, I'm overly impressed by how AMCU has conducted itself during the strike. Courageous, peaceful, strategic, resolute. Beautiful struggle, says Khamotso. Fiwa Mulautsi says, at Fin24, I think it's time for AMCU to accept this offer and let it go. Workers are suffering out there. Thoughtful Brain says, government needs to lodge an intervention on such instances. Any entity can't strike for more than 3 months without DTI getting involved. And Liam Davis says, Joseph Matunja still earns a fat salary while you earn nothing. If you increase productivity, you will make money, not striking, says Liam Davis. Well, let's have a look at what is happening on our Facebook page right now. The Independent Communications Authority, ICASA, has confirmed that it's received a complaint from the economic freedom fighters after its election advertisement was rejected by the SABC. More of that story, of course, you can get on our Facebook page. Updated to the minute. First National Bank has also launched an investigation after a joke from the bank's Twitter personal account caused an uproar yesterday. And then English poet, playwright and actor William Shakespeare celebrates his 450th birthday today. For us here in South Africa this week, 50 years ago, on the 20th of April 1964, Nelson Mandela told the world he was prepared to die for his dream of a democratic, non-racial South Africa. This became one of the world's most iconic speeches. Let's just take a look back at a snippet.
I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons will live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an idea for which I hope to live for and to see realized. But my Lord, if it needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
Well, those are the famous words of Nelson Mandela. They will echo into eternity, no doubt. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, Newsroom will look at rhino poaching in South Africa. Don't go away.
That's Sports Live, daily at 8:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Gaming enthusiasts, including us here at Network, indulged in over 80 exhibits that included the Xbox One and Nintendo. Visitors also got to try out PlayStation 4 computer entertainment system, which was unveiled at Rage 2013.
I just came here to see the Xbox One and the PS4, see which one I'd buy.
If you have close to 400,000 Rand to spare, then you can buy the new UHD TV set. Samsung has launched cheaper models, but cheaper doesn't necessarily mean cheap. South Africa has just received the country's first surgical robot, but the robot isn't quite taking over from your surgeon just yet.
That's Network, Sundays, 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom on SABC News. The theft of about 40 rhinohorn worth over 160 million Rand from a safe of the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency at the weekend has risen eyebrows on who is exactly behind rhino poaching in southern Africa. The culprits cut open 2 steel safes fitted with double locks. So far, no arrests have been made. Rhino poaching is said to have reached alarming proportions here in South Africa, with already more than 270 killed this year. To discuss the latest incident and poaching in general in South Africa, we are joined from Pretoria by South African National Parks Ray Tlakuli, and joining us here in studio in Johannesburg from the Department of Environmental Affairs, Albie Medisi. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Eben.
Good morning, Eben, and thanks for having us.
If I can start with you, Ray, the latest incident, a little bit embarrassing, isn't it?
It is definitely, embarrassing. I think it's more of a wake-up call to everybody, both private and public, rhino managers, that we really need to look into our, security measures. And we can only hope that, the police who are working tirelessly, to arrest the culprits are actually, winning the battle of finding these people and also finding the rhino hunt.
Are we talking about an inside job here? And if that is the case, is there a massive red flag that many more employees within the system are engaging in poaching as well?
I think we should be careful of not making any speculations at this particular moment. As I've indicated that police are busy with an investigation. So it won't help us to make speculations if there is definitely an inside job or there's no such. So it's better for us to wait for the police to conclude their investigation and therefore allow the Mpumalanga Parks and Tourism Agency as well to respond to such allegations, if they are true at all.
And how long do you expect this investigation to take, you think?
The police should be the best people placed to actually respond to that question, because we don't work within the police services. So they should be best placed to respond to that in terms of how long it will take for them to conclude the investigation.
Right, don't go away. There are a couple of more questions I want to ask you. So I just want to come to Albie here in Johannesburg, and I want to ask him their reaction, the Department of Environmental Affairs reaction to this latest incident, and what this then says in general about how we seem to be policing rhino poaching in South Africa.
I think even we have to accept that there's a growing demand for the rhino horn. whether the poachers would attack rhinos in the wild at the national parks or provincial parks, or they would break even security doors and bars and to gain access to the rhino horns stored safely in public institutions. This begins to tell us that they would do anything to lay their hands on the rhino horns. But also, we as National Department are working closely with provinces. We would want to get all provinces to put all of their rhino stockpiles in a secure, centralized safe. Largely because we realize that it's pretty difficult to police all the different provinces in terms of their stockpiles of rhino horns. So it's always better to improve one central safe where we can all put all publicly owned rhino horns. And we're working closely with the provinces. Minister has met with the MECs for environment on this particular matter. We're working closely with the provinces in terms of making sure that we are able to address this particular problem.
Part of the policing scenario was the Memorandum of Understanding with Mozambique. Tell us about that and how that will make an impact into dealing with the scourge.
Within the space of rhino poaching, there are countries that are often referred to as consumer countries. These are countries that are the ones that receive the horns. Although I need to mention that this goes to the black market. They don't go into the legal market. But then there are those countries that are said to be transit states. Transit states are states that are used by poachers and operatives to move the horns from South Africa, for example, to cross the border and be able to move them into their market. So the MOU with Mozambique is geared towards ensuring that we close all possible loopholes that might exist in between the two countries. But also, we've got a trans-frontier conservation arrangement with Mozambique. We want to make sure that as and when the rangers in South Africa are pursuing poachers and they run to the Mozambican side, that there is a mechanism that assists us to be able to raise the flag with the Mozambicans for them to be able to apprehend those particular poachers. But also we would want to make sure that on an ongoing basis we engage with Mozambique. Remember, today it's rhino, tomorrow it's something else. Our MOU is flexible enough to incorporate all possible areas that might arise as time goes on.
And Ray, if I can ask you, how do you guys see yourself fitting into this framework?
I think it will work to our advantage. There has been obviously, those challenges that we've been facing, particularly on hot pursuits, that we couldn't actually, pursue the suspected poachers up to the Mozambican side. But this will certainly pave a way of more, work between ourselves and our Mozambican counterparts. It's actually quite an exciting, thing that our government has been leading. And we are looking forward in terms of the implementation of all, the possible, activities and functions that we could do with our Mozambican part.
Then, Ray, I think the more pressing question that people have is that how do you intend to deal with people that are seen as double agents within your organization?
We have already done that. If you might recall, 2 weeks ago, we actually arrested 2 of our own employees within the Kruger National Park. We are not only looking at external incursions that are coming into the park, but we're also looking to ourselves, to close all the possible, challenges or loopholes that we experience in this space of fighting rhino poaching. So we are having, processes internally in terms of dealing with such people. And we've already done it before. Before these two guys that were arrested last week, there was about 3 years ago that were also arrested. We arrested our own people and dealt with them accordingly. So as soon as we know about these people, we allow internal processes to continue. They normally run concurrently with the criminal charges that have been laid against these guys. So we are not really leaving any stone unturned in the fight against rhino poaching. This is really threatening our heritage and not in our watch. This is the war that we're planning to win.
We lost about 1,000 last year. Ray, I'm just talking to RB here in Johannesburg. We've lost about 1,000 rhino. We've got 20,000 left roundabout. So at that rate, within 20 years, they'll be all gone. Is it not time now for us to maybe change direction as to how do we approach this problem? Because it seems that the current scenario is not working. Do we think about legalizing poaching now and managing it more professionally and better?
Even the reality is that there is a market for the rhinohorn, and we've come to accept that. We are also saying we don't think trade on its own would be a panacea to the problem. The problem needs to be addressed at various levels. The MOUs we've signed with Vietnam, with China, recently with Mozambique, are part of a plethora of interventions that we are going to execute to ensure that we address the poaching, the issue of poaching. However, when we went to CITES meeting, which is a Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species last year, we raised the interest of our country to open possible trade in rhinohorn. We went to Cabinet after CITES to say to Cabinet we would want to broach the possibility of opening of trade. Cabinet has endorsed this proposal. We have now set up a committee led by the department that's going to look at the modalities of trade, largely because, for an example, whether you open trade in totality or you have a staggered trade that's going to be implemented. So we would want to look at that possibility. But we are also saying we need to make sure that all of the different interventions are also scaled up at the level of the Defence Force in Kruger, the levels of investigation by the police, the prosecution by the courts, the work that's been done by the different rangers in terms of privately owned parks, but also that you and I, as members of the public, to ensure that we work closely with the police, to ensure that the rhino is not going to be extinct on our watch. But also we want to make sure that as and when we put in place the possible trade in rhinohorn decision, that we've done all the groundwork, we've engaged all the stakeholders, we've also addressed the concerns of the stakeholders, but also soothed their fears as well.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning. Albie Medisi of the Department of Environmental Affairs, and then live from Pretoria this morning, South African National Parks, Ray Tlakuli. Thank you for joining us. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you, man.
Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot.
It is a scourge that seems to be getting worse and not better. Send us your comments if you have on rhino poaching, or pictures if you have. We'd love to interact with you. Let's just take a look at what you're talking about on social media. Of course, there's been a small thing of a football manager being fired, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday. It's causing a whole consternation all around the football world. Let's have a look at what some of our viewers are saying about David Moyes. Well, there are some of it. I just want to say thank you, Moyes. Goodbye. Ha, 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 says Bastian. Yes, glory, glory, Man United, they say. John Kent says so. Alex Ferguson isn't always right. And none of us are, John Kent. Martha Maricha Nyama says, RT happy. Smiley face, Man United fan. All of the above. We want the guy after the guy, so Alex choose. He saw. And there you have. Lots of parodies, actually, on social media at the moment. That's the Miley Cyrus scenario with David Moyes on the wrecking ball there. This from Conrad, who says, just seen this and had to share it. All the hilarious virals I've seen, surely the best. And then Anne says, David Moyes was sacked. It would be nice. Looking forward to good news from Man United. I'm happy. Well, Man United's not a club that normally hires and fires. It's a little bit different doing business this time. And now, Nepalese guides on Mount Everest have decided to abandon this year's climbing season to honour the 16 colleagues killed in an avalanche there last week. The decision throws the plans of hundreds of mountaineers into chaos, with many of them waiting in base camp after paying tens of thousands of dollars to scale the world's highest peak. We found some footage on YouTube of the avalanche that killed the guides on the 18th of April. Yeah, 16 lives. 16 lives have now been lost. 16 lives of Nepalese guides on Mount Everest in that avalanche. This is Newsroom. We'll be back after a short commercial break.
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Sports Live, the show that brings you the latest local and international news, live interviews with the who's who in sport. He's the first South African to wear a yellow jersey that was at the Tour de France this year.
It's the first time that we get a boxer who's recognized by the Ring magazine as the best fighter in the planet to visit our country.
And he's very close to world record pace. And in fact, it is a new world record.
When you cross the line, what went through one's mind?
None of the four of us knew who had won. The scoreboard is always on the left, but all of us tend to the right. No, we just waited for the country to go down. RSA.
That's Sports Live, daily at 8:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Mercedes-Benz is all what you can expect from a lifestyle brand itself. We are about premium and luxury, we're about fascination, perfection, at the same time responsibility to our communities.
You know, my father was a musician and he loved music. He loved especially choral music.
Now, as a person of color, you can't hit on her like, hello, nice.
Man, they were a great audience. No, I had so much fun performing for them.
Baby, I love.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays, 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. Let's just take a quick look at the news headlines. Negotiations to end the longest and most costly strike in the platinum mining sector will continue today. There's been cautious optimism that the 3-month strike could soon be over. The proposed increases will ensure that the minimum cash remuneration for entry-level underground employees rises to 12,500 Rand per month by 2017. The strike has also so far resulted in 6 billion Rand in employees' lost earnings and 14 billion Rand in companies' revenue lost. No update on the ongoing talks has been released. The ANC and opposition parties serving on Parliament's ad hoc committee on Nkandla are in disagreement about the committee's mandate and timeframes. The ruling party yesterday announced its 7 MPs to serve on the committee. Reports to be considered include that of the Public Protector, the Special Investigative Unit, and President Zuma's initial response to Madonsela's report. National Assembly Speaker Max Sisulu has set April 30th as the deadline for completing its work. Its work is expected to begin soon. COSATU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi says the Labour Federation will continue to work towards the scrapping of e-tolls and labour brokers, as well as the introduction of a national minimum wage. Vavi says COSATU's support for the ANC is conditional on these issues. He was addressing a joint Shop Stewards Council meeting in Cape Town on COSATU matters. Vavi says they also remain concerned about the amount of money spent upgrading President Jacob Zuma's home in Nkandla. Now, to continue with the discussion on the latest incidents of stolen rhinohorn and poaching here in South Africa, we are joined by Alison Thompson from Pretoria from the Outraged South African Citizens Against Poaching. Good morning to you, Alison. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Eben. How are you?
Very good, thank you. You guys are outraged against rhino poaching. We are outraged at the fact that 40 horns can be stolen out of a safe in Mpumalanga. What's your response to that?
Well, you know, Eben, we're not really surprised or shocked at the news. You know, we have a massive problem in South Africa where, you know, enforcement is a big issue. It just shows just how little in control we've got in South Africa. We can't even secure our own rhino horn stockpiles. We also have the problem where, you know, private rhino owners have been reluctant to participate in this whole process because of the threat of follow-up attacks after an audit. I mean, last year we had 66 rhino horns stolen from a private reserve. How many people have been arrested for that? You know, we have a massive enforcement issue here that's not being looked at correctly. And, you know, we were talking to LB earlier on, and he was talking about opening up trade. You know, I mean, how can we open up trade in an environment where we have all this enforcement problem? We've got vets involved, we've got rangers involved, we've got pilots, and just about every aspect of the wildlife industry involved in the poaching. You know, when last did we take down a whole syndicate? You know, have we ever taken down a whole syndicate at all? We've got one middleman sitting in jail, Mpumalanga Tai. None of the conservation officers that were involved in those pseudo hunts have ever been charged or brought to book. You know, we have to start looking at our environment and what we're doing here. You know, to start talking about opening up trade and doing this and doing that, you know, when we haven't even got control of the poaching is a little bit naive and dangerous.
You say that you're totally against it, but we've lost 1,000 rhino last year, Alison, and we've lost about 300 almost this year already. We're not winning this war. We're not making any headway. Is legalization not maybe a way to sort of change gear and go the other direction?
Absolutely not. You know, opening up trade in a corrupt system, it can be very, very dangerous. You know, also if you look at the demands that may be required, you know, when you open up a trade, what you do is you open up different markets as well. You know, in the past, we've managed to close down some markets, and you know, when you open up a market again, you introduce those markets back into the buying portfolio. So, you know, we could find ourselves in such a position that we actually push the rhinos closer to extinction if we open up trade. We just have to look at what's happened with the sale of ivory and what happened to the poaching crisis that followed that with the elephants. I mean, we have to be very, very careful before making such, you know, flippant decisions.
Clearly there's a problem then. What is the solution? What are your views?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, you have to secure the rhinos. You know, we have to have the political will to stop it. We have to have it from the top down. You know, if you look at the government and what they're trying to do with the MOUs, you know, we've just signed an MOU with Mozambique, which is really not worth the paper it's written on, because it's just an agreement to sign another agreement. Mozambique is basically just doing a sanctions-busting exercise with South Africa at the moment, because CITES threatened to sanction them if certain things weren't done. And South Africa is, you know, just playing ball with them at the moment to try and prevent the sanctions from being imposed. You know, in order to stop this, we have to have real action on the ground. You know, and you know, SAMPOX is working really hard with their IPPZ, you know, to secure the rhinos. But that just puts the private rhino owners at more risk, because, you know, once you secure one herd, you let another become a high-risk area.
Do we have a problem with people being double agents, working for SAMPOX and then working for poaching syndicates on the side? And how widespread do you think that problem is?
Well, it is very, very widespread. You know, there are lots of good guys on the ground, but unfortunately, you know, we've got vets involved, we've got pilots involved, we've got farmers involved, we've got police involved, we've got hawks involved. You know, right along the whole spectrum, people are involved. You know, until we can sort out the corruption in this country and filter out those people, you know, and take down these syndicates, we are going to lose this war. We are going to lose our rhinos. We're going to lose our heritage. We're going to lose tourism.
We hope not. We hope we can arrest this before it happens. Thank you for joining us today. That is Alison Thompson from the Outraged South African Citizens Against Poaching. And many people in this country, around the world, are outraged about this. We move on. Lusitoland, Joburg's hottest family festival, is back. And this year promises to be even bigger and better than before. One of the acts set to perform is South Africa's hottest new trio, Rubber Duck. We have them, as well as Prime Circle, in studio. But first, let's have a look at Rubber Duck's YouTube hit single, Ain't Nobody Got Time for That.
Time for that. Everybody got time, everybody got time, everybody got time for that. Everybody got time for that. Everybody got time for that. Everybody got time, everybody got time, everybody got time for that. Stop. You're making a sound. Don't think of writing it down. If the word gets out, you're gonna go to jail. We got things to say. Don't take our words away. Transparency, it's our right to see your games. You got aeroplanes, blue light brigade for a family may bring the Air Force in. There's gonna be a fire. We wanna know who paid who passed the message through. Jumbo jets, friends with benefits. Sing with me this melody. Oh, everybody got time for that. Everybody got time for that.
Local is lekker, as they say, can't get better. I particularly like that beat. But Katrine is standing by with the guys to give us a full roundup. Thanks, Katrine.
Yes, some of the finest South African musicians and bands are set to perform at this year's festival. Lusitoland first opened its doors in 1981 as a festival that celebrated the Portuguese tradition and culture. Over the last 33 years, it has evolved into a festival celebrated by the many cultures that make up Johannesburg and Gauteng. The festival kicks off from the 24th of April till the 4th of May. Today, we are joined by two of the bands that will be performing, South Africa's hottest new trio, Rubber Duck, as well as lead singer Ross Learmonth of Prime Circle. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Cool.
Would you start off with just introducing the band to us, Rubber Duck now?
Yes, sure, Rubber Duck. I'm Nick, this is Sheldon, that's Brendan.
And then Ross from Prime Circle is also joining us.
I just joined Rubber Duck.
Listen, we just saw the video and everything. Just tell us, where did you guys come from? Where did it all start, the sound?
Look, we've been working on a lot of different projects for a while, and we were asked to do a show that a few bands pulled out of, and they needed some other artists. So me and Brendan put a little duo at first together, and we went to do the show. We added some acoustic elements, bringing in our own acoustic bass drums and all that kind of stuff, and that's how our sound really evolved. And then obviously we decided we wanted to get a bit of brass in the band, so we brought on some Shell Duck here.
Yeah, tell us about the name, the Rubber Duck. Quite original.
It was all quite funny. Me and Brendan also wanted to be DJs, so we initially came up with Ain't Nobody Got Time for That, the concept.
Got your mascot here
Yeah, that's Mona, by the way. But anyway, we came up initially with the concept, and then we were going to DJ in duck suits, and we wanted something funny, and we came up with Rubber Duck. And then when we needed a name for this duo that we had at the time, we decided to go with Rubber Duck, and that's how it came about, yeah.
And then just how has your life changed since? Because you guys started only last year, if I'm correct.
Yeah, we were about 4 months old, and our first single did really well, and still doing pretty well for a first single, so it's pretty exciting.
I wanted to ask you guys are big on YouTube, and everybody's seen the video on YouTube, we just saw it. How has YouTube, social media, made your life easier as a band and just the music scene in general?
And Brendan can say this on that.
All right. Well, I mean, YouTube, it's a global platform. It's a way to get your music out there, and it's free to put your music on there, and it's such a good vehicle to get exposure that you wouldn't, otherwise necessarily get. So it's I mean, obviously the video it's done quite well, and we're very happy about that. So yeah, I mean, and that's all due to YouTube, and it's a good method to, getting it out there.
Now, Ross, I would like to get to you. Now, Prime Circle is, like the country, almost celebrating 20 years of being in the rock music scene. Can you just tell us, it's actually been 13, 14 years. Can you just tell us how it's been over these years?
It's crazy, man. It's 14 years. It doesn't feel like it. You guys are like now so young. It's you're going to wait to look again, and it'll be like 10 years, yeah. But, yeah, it feels like yesterday we started, and 14 years we celebrated our big birthday. And yeah, what a jewel! Just it's a trick.
But now on this topic of social media, how has it changed? You guys started before this whole age.
Yeah, it was still like black and white, and yeah.
How has it changed or made it easier for you guys to get your music out there?
It definitely made it easier for us. I mean, we could reach out. It helped us get to Europe and helped us get out there into other markets. That's the big thing. I think it used to be so hard because of the medium, the lack of the medium, especially for South African acts. Because and now there's that medium there. It's like sort of, it doesn't matter. It's like crossing. There's no borders anymore, which is awesome.
Now, what does it take to be one of South Africa's top rock bands and actually stay there?
Songs. That's what everyone forgets about. They all go, well, let's do this or do that. But it's in the end, you got to try and keep writing songs. That's the best songs you can write.
Where is rock in South Africa compared to the world? Have we reached our peak, or are we still busy?
The SA invasion is happening, man. You can see it. No, South Africa, I think the level of band and production and everything is just on another level now. It's amazing. Every day I wake up and I listen to SA bands, and it's, you can't believe how many bands are out there that you guys out there haven't heard, which is amazing.
Now, just on the topic of Lusitoland, it will be your 8th performance this year.
I think so, yeah.
Tell us, why do you keep going back? What's so fun about this festival, and why should people go?
It's a Katemba. Yeah, I think everyone who's been knows. It's like Katembas and lots of Katembas, and then a bit more Katembas. No, it's a great day. It's a great day, and you can buy a really. You can buy every kind of Portuguese food there is, and drink and be merry and be happy, and there's great music, and it's awesome.
Now, just tell us your advice to any young group starting out in South Africa?
Read everything you sign. Don't sign anything unless you've read it. And ask for advice. Go to a proper person for advice. Yeah.
And Nick, just back to you guys. Lusitoland, will it be your first year performing at Lusitoland?
Yes, it is our first year at Lusitoland. Really excited about it. And we've got quite a show to offer, so it's going to be cool.
And then just any other highlights happening this year that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, look, we're hoping to release our album by the end of the year. We're working currently on new singles to release pretty soon. Come to our shows, check it out for yourself.
And where will people be able to get your music?
You can get our music right now on SoundCloud. We're busy working on iTunes accounts, obviously. And then you can come watch our shows. We've obviously got CDs on sale. We've got all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. And some merch.
Oh, guys, thank you so much for joining us. It was so much fun having you on the show. It was Ross Leemont from Prime Circle and then the guys from Rubber Duck. They will all be performing at the Lusitoland Festival. That starts tomorrow, if I'm correct. And you can go check them out there. We've also got all of the information up on Facebook, and you can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Eben, back to you.
Yeah, I look forward to the festival, but not to the gout attack next week from all the meat that we normally eat at Lusitoland Festival. It's going to be great. It's Joburg's favourite one, the Lusitoland Festival, for families, that is. But let's take a quick look, or a final look, at what you are talking about, what's on social media at the moment. Smart Katie, I think it is, baffled by MH370 news. Nothing has changed except the headlines. Still no plane, no wreckage, no proof. I'm still saying it was alien abduction, but you know, what do I know? Kabir says, day 47, no signs, no nothing, unbelievable. That's the only thing that's believable, is that it's completely unbelievable. Saipad Mohammed. That's interesting. Why is Australia left shouldering the bulk of the blame, I suppose, when Chinese and Malaysian governments should be able to spend too? Obviously, an Aussie taxpayer that's a little bit worried there. Mohammed Lee says, are they still searching? Yes, they are. They're looking for Elvis Presley as well, my friend. Prashant Chodia says, internet shows how small our world really is. A missing aircraft, MH370, shows how big our world actually is. I'd rather say, Prashant, how big our universe is. Leave nothing out of the equation, my friend. We live in interesting times. This show is broadcast live every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. Highlights repeated at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following morning. We also stream live on YouTube between 9 and 10 a.m. every morning, so you can watch it in the office without your boss knowing. You can also watch the entire channel on our YouTube channel, the entire show. So when your boss is not watching, you can also watch it in your spare time. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We love it in the morning.
You're making a sound, don't think of writing it down. If the word gets out, y'all don't go to jail. We got things to say, don't take our words away. Transparency, it's our right to see your games. You got aeroplanes, blue light brigade for a family name. Bring the Air Force in, there's gonna be a fire. We wanna know who paid who passed the message through. Jumbo jets, friends with benefits. Sing with me this melody. Oh, everybody got time for that. Everybody got time for that. Everybody got time. Everybody got time. Everybody got time for that. Everybody got time for that. Everybody got time for that. Everybody got time. Everybody got time. Everybody got time for that. When driving to work, it takes its toll. Spend your paycheck.